is muted. Hey, let me try this again. Hi, Danny, my friend. It's very good to see you. Long time. Welcome, everyone, to my Best Losses Monday, featuring my second adoption match with Dina Belenkaya. I'm gonna lower this music just a tad so you guys can hear you. Hello, Chess Lions. Hello, Daniel. Hello, I'm a Shave Guy. It's very good to see you guys here. It's been a good Monday. It's been a good September. I'm very glad to be back into streaming chair. As Danny said, it's always a pleasure. Before we delve into the games from my match with Dina, I would like to delve into a couple of program announcements. The first announcement is that this coming Sunday I'm playing an adoption match against the Grandmaster Anna Muzichuk, and frankly, that's probably going to be the toughest match I've faced. I think Anna is probably stronger than Aman Hamilton, who was able to adopt me. Hey, Felipe Propabu, thank you for the follow. It's very greatly appreciated. And music would kill the VOD. We'll figure that out. I'll lower the volume and we'll see. So anyway, if you have any musical requests, let me know. But what I wanted to announce is, first I have this match that I'm going to be fairly tough to prepare for, and that's probably my toughest challenge to date. So there will be a couple of unscheduled streams this week that I'm going to use to prepare. We're gonna figure that out, and I'll announce it in Discord and on Twitter. And if you haven't already done, please join my Discord. The link is in the chat, and I think I still have a Twitter command, or yeah. So the question. Also, my dear friend Anna Rudolf and coach is, hey, Grandmaster Miro Mirkovic, it's very good to see you here. Thank you for joining us. Hvala, Miro. The question here is, she's very busy with commentating other tournaments, so we won't have our regularly scheduled Nikola learns chess. But I plan on still streaming on Wednesday at 5 p.m. and I might have a little surprise for everybody present. It will be a couple of streams dedicated to my preparation for the match against Grandmaster Anna Muzichuk. I have to say I have been having a pretty good 2 chess days. I think I played fairly well in the match against Dina, and we're going to analyze a few games. I think I learned a lot, and I'm very happy with the score. It was 7-3 in Dina's favor, which was, it was better than I expected. And I've picked up 3 games to show you guys that basically illustrate difficulties of playing against a stronger player. And more importantly than that, I'm here in a situation that I'm playing, my usual opponents are, and the target opponent is probably rated somewhere between 2300 and 2400 online, meaning this is chess.com Blitz rating. And now I'm going to be playing with Anna Muzichuk, somebody who is higher than that in the 2600 range. So I don't think I'm going to have as many chances as I normally had. So that's one program announcement. So there will be 2 additional streams this week. That's number 1. And number 2, we also have in plan a pretty big co-stream with Alessia Santeramo, Noel Studer, and Julian Landau, in which Julian and I are going to commentate adoption match between Alessia and Noel. I think Noel is a very brave man to accept this match. The date hasn't been firmed up yet, but I'll post it as soon as I know it. Frankly, as I said, Noel is very brave to do this. I don't think I would have the guts to do it, to play with my significant other in adoption match. It looks to me like a no-win situation. Hey, Chicken Morales, it's very good to see you. So anyway, so much for program announcements. I am going to dwell into the very first game that they played against Dina. And, I didn't lose a bet, but I promised Alessia that I'm going to play, exactly, Hedgehog. He'll be sleeping in the garage if he wins. Yeah, I know. I basically already sent him a note saying that my sofa is available for him if he wins. Anyway, so we'll see how well that goes. But anyway, we'll announce that very shortly. So to go back, hey, Virateros, thank you for the follow. That's very greatly appreciated. And we are rapidly approaching we are now at 1,980 followers. At 2,000 followers, we are going to have a special stream in which yours truly, after multiple requests and various arm twisting and so on, has decided that he's going to relent and basically play Fall Guys on stream. And as I showed yesterday during the match, I already have a controller and I started practicing. It's a little bit, I'm nowhere near in shape, and my hand-eye coordination is not what it was when I was a tad younger, but I'll try to, not embarrass myself. Also, I'm tempted to suggest that I'm going to continue streaming until I have a win, but that probably may take a few years, so I'm not going to commit to that. Oh, hi. First, want to give a quick greeting and shout out to my dear friend Mark Esserman, and a quick shout out to Mark. Let's see if I can actually, I'm going to have to copy and paste this. All right. Oh, no. Let's see. Y75. All right. So please, if you already, thank you, Mark, for this subscription. And Mark requested "The World Is Not Enough," which is actually my favorite song on his stream. So thank you, Mark. Let me find that. World is not enough. Official trailer. I guess this is it, right? Let's see. No. All right, trailer. No, hold on. My bad. All right. Very good. Here we are. Yeah. Okay. Anyway, so thank you, Mark. That Mark knows this is one of my favorite songs, and thank you for the subscription. And Chelsea, thank you for redeeming this. I'll try to improve my posture. And I'll also have some water. Hey, so good to see you, Chelsea. It's very good to see you here. Anyway, so to go back to my match against Dina, I'm going to show you the first two games and then game 6. The score was actually very favorable for me, and I think I played really well, as this game will illustrate. So this is game 1, and I promised my dear friend Alessia Santeramo that I'm going to play Grob in the first game. And so I did. And very frankly, I was encouraged in that choice of openings by watching MVL play Grob against Blitzstream and actually win rather handily. So, you know what, if what's good for MVL is good for me. Anyway, so I played G4, which is normal, first line in Grob, and let me go back here and, you know, d5, which is actually not my favorite response to g4. I generally prefer to play e5 and then h5, but anyway, bishop g2, g6, which very frankly is an interesting handling on Grob, and g5 is the best move in this position. We're gaining space and we're already prepping some wing attack by pushing h4, h5 somewhere down the line. Anyway, c6, which is basically solid position that neutralizes the g2 bishop. Hey, Jude NYC, thank you so much for this. Yeah, it's already minus 0.60. It's though after c6 is actually minus 0.18. Grob is obviously not the correct opening, and I hope that Mark will forgive me for playing it, but I made a promise and I had to keep it. Anyway, and you know, playing this match and having a little bit of fun, there is nothing wrong with it. Computer doesn't like c4, which frankly I don't understand. The computer prefers d4 and solid line, but if we're playing Grob, we are not really there to play solid positional game. So c4, bishop g7, you know, knight c3. As you can tell, my handling horrifies Stockfish, so what? And after d4, knight e4 and bishop f5, I find myself in, you know, after knight d7 and h4 and h6 and finally bishop knight g3, I find myself in a pretty decent position for Grob. This knight on g3 is, oh, rocky theme. All right, I'll put it. Yeah, exactly, Hedgehog. Stockfish, Schmockfish. Thank you, Jude NYC. I'll put the rocky theme as soon as this song ends. So what is basically the plan here? Obviously, there is a little question of castling in this position. And let me stop this and let me play the rocky theme. You know, obviously the black, there we go. So this is the rocky theme song. Yeah, there you go. Thank you. So the plan here is for that white basically wants to attack in this position regardless of where the black king castles. This bishop is very strong if black castles on the queen side, and this pawn attack has already started on the queen side. Incidentally, the same applies for white, but it's you know, white is already playing a fairly you know, risky opening and has decided to, you know, and frankly Dina is a very strong positional player, as you guys will see in a couple of games that I'm going to show you afterwards, and I decided that my best opportunity in this game is to mix it up and basically play some sort of a very aggressive semi-wild game. Hey Dirk, thank you for joining us. Hey Chelsea, and thank you for the host. That's very, very, very greatly appreciated. Hey Chesnoob, it's very great to see you here. And Lali, thank you so much. I know it's after 2:30 a.m. your time. Thank you for joining us. I know it's very late for you. That means a lot. Hey Chess Barbie, it's thank you for being here. It's very good to have you guys here. I'm showing the games for my match against WGM Dina Belenkaya. Anyway, so after knight g3, bishop, you know, after knight g3, Dina played bishop g4, and you will see that you know, white is already, I don't want to say better in this position, but white's position has improved. And, you know, I didn't really want to go into this h5 line, which is incidentally what MVL played in his game against Blitzstream. I decided to play a relatively safe move. and the plan here was to get the knight on d2 and then either on b3 or a b3 or e4, and if in the case the black castles on the queen side, I would have a pretty decent attack with a potential playing b4, a4, and so on and so forth. At this point, I'm starting to like my position. In other words, I would say that I can even say that the Grob has paid its dividends. This is now a pretty wild position that I really enjoy. And better yet, it's a type of position in which the delta or a difference between relative strengths of Dina and myself is probably lower than in some sort of a position which is purely positional, which Dina, and I have experienced that plenty of times firsthand, it would just crush me. Oh, that's a very nice remote by Nikki. Thanks, Just Lion, for sharing it with us. What does it say? It's stinky cheese. Thanks. Anyway, so after queen c7, rook b1, castle long. So basically, at this point, the plans are rather obvious. I'm gonna play b4, b5, a4, and try to attack on the queen side. And I'm at this point very happy with this position. Obviously, I'm not directly better, and this is not a strong position for white, but this is a position which suits me because the plan for white is very easy. It's basically go and attack black king and hope that you will be faster than black. All right, so b4, obvious move. Knight e5, which is an accuracy. b5, all normal plans. Take on f3, takes on f3, and then bishop d7. a4, which according to Stockfish is an accuracy. I should have played f4, and for once I actually agree with Stockfish that was the best move. Why is it best move? Because it puts a little bit of a pressure on this c6 pawn that basically white threatens to take, playing queen b3, and then there is certain pressure here, obviously after white castles and so on. Anyway, so after a4, bishop e5, which basically doesn't gain black anything, because all that's happening is that the knight is already going where the knight needs to go. And let me put it this way, I wasn't exactly, I need square a4 for queen, Grandmaster Majkovic, exactly. And anyway, that's the difference between two positions. And after takes and then knight takes, though, I evaluate. Let me rewind for a second. I think I'm too winded during this stream, and I apologize for that. It's here is a tough question. In other words, how is white to proceed with this attack? And there is an obviously direct choice. The choice is whether to take with a pawn and basically allow this exchange on h1, and then basically committing oneself to leaving this king in the center and hoping that going to f1 is sufficient to defend the white king, or to take with a knight and basically allow a possibility of castling king side at some point later in the game. According to the computer, I've actually misevaluated this position. I should have taken and exchanged the rooks. I think I understand why Stockfish made that particular assumption, because frankly, white will never going to be able to castle short anyway. So, playing with, and knight on e4 is actually better placed than on g5, because, the threat of from g5 to taking on f7 is not really a threat. It's very easily defended, and knight here has a very strong position. On top of it, it can go to c5 and then threaten b7, and it's much better placed on e4 than on g5. And as you will see later in the game, I took on g5 here, but the knight few moves later is actually going to come back on e4, where it's much better placed. Dina played knight h6, and after a5, which was actually a deliberate provocation. I wanted Dina to take this pawn, and Dina took it, and then after, which is actually not a good move, as you can tell, because it opens the a file. I played bishop d2, and after queen c7, queen a4, and it's very interesting to see here how if you look at the computer analysis of the game, when there are concrete attack plans, both sides actually play significantly better than when one is faced with some sort of strategic maneuvering. Anyway, so after queen a4, hey Jude NYC, thank you for the raid. That's very greatly appreciated. Oh, and so after queen b8, I played a move that is probably my favorite in this game, although computer doesn't like it. I played b6 to open the a file and to kind of open up the black king completely, because after b6 takes and then rook a1, black is obviously has to run with the king, because contesting the a file is not possible. So what Dina played, it was basically the only move that doesn't lose the game in a very few moves, which is king c8. And I wanted to chase this particular bishop away, so I played f4, which in retrospect, it achieves its purpose, and its purpose is to allow this bishop to attack c6 and participate in the attack, and there was also a potential sacrifice on c6 in play. But in retrospect, I should have played h5 and locked down the h file before proceeding with aggressive f4. Anyway, Dina didn't take the pawn, and for obvious reasons. And after knight e4, which is the best move, bishop f5. And here is a very interesting position here. If you look at the computer evaluation, computer basically evaluates this position as a 1 for black. The problem with a position that's a 1 for that evaluation is that black needs to find several very important resources, and that resources are basically one, where is this king gonna go? Okay, that's a fairly straightforward answer. It's supposed to escape to d7 and e8. Second, I wanted to play a little bit of a disruptive position, which is why I played the next move, which is basically c5, and I'm gonna put it on the board, which is not a direct threat in any of the way, but it threatens a couple of things. It threatens to, take this bishop off this particular diagonal, and also to exchange it for this knight, in which point this bishop comes into play, and after some check here, there are some possibilities of continuing a mating attack. Objectively, this position is lost for white, but I thought that this is a position that had some practical chances. And all right, we're gonna listen to Dire Straits. This is Walk of Life. So I decided that I'm gonna stick with this position and see what happens and keep mixing it up. And as you will see very shortly, I ended up being rewarded for that. So after after takes on f4, I took on b6, and and this is basically now a forcing line. Forcing line is bishop d2, takes on d2, and the queen f4, which is a check, and take king. Actually should have gone on e2, but I felt that I have a better chance of surviving this if I escape over there. You will also notice that although that this knight holds together the position, however, this knight, if exchanged, and that was played, is all of a sudden you have after knight e4, bishop takes on e4, there are quite a lot of questions for black here. So I'm going to show this, and I kind of wish I played this, because after once black exhausts all the checks, black needs to find the resource of going to king d7, which is the best move, and which is not by no means an obvious move or even logical move, and then after this it would basically devolve into a position, and after all these idiosyncrasies, black has an extra pawn, and it's still open for the debate who is necessarily better, because this pawn on b6 is very dangerous. These two pawns are a little bit weak. There is a potential of sacrifice on c6, and so on and so forth. In other words, I am not going to say that I necessarily liked my position, but I gave a check on a8. And this is the first, I would call this king d7 is actually a blunder, because after king b8, king e8, which is really a mistake. After bishop takes on e4, you will discover that white is all of a sudden better. And all right, so let me just play this song. I'll go back to original Dire Straits. Okay. So, and obviously I'm here, unfortunately I'm here down to about 4 seconds, and this is a better position for white, because there is an attack, there are all sorts of dangers, and after queen f2, which is the best move, king b3, which is an obvious and understandable move. Alright, thanks Chess Lions. As soon as this song finishes, I'll play yours. And after king f8, I basically, this is where one plays for not having enough time. Queen c7 was probably it was the winning move, because it's not immediately obvious how one can actually defend various threats, because rook rook a7 is a threat, bishop takes on c6, and you know there is all sorts of nasty stuff. And this bishop is basically an octopus that's holding the position together, because you know black really doesn't have any checks or any dangers, and you know this was all of a sudden became one position for white, which is very frankly what I was aiming at. Now, getting into this position, and let me just pause this and let me put Daniel's song. Hold on. Oops. So, okay, just bear with me. Put it in exactly. Oh, no, that's not what we want. Oops. Okay, blah, blah. All right. One night in Bangkok. Oh, okay. Thanks, Daniel. That's cool. Going back to the position. So I played here a move that doesn't throw the complete advantage, but it's an inaccuracy. And then after king e7, all of a sudden, you know, the black rooks are here connected. And it's not immediately obvious how white can, you know, continue the attack. And I have 3 seconds. So I'll spare you the very big details. I took on e7 after, which basically is losing thing. Rook he8 is a lost thing. I actually managed to play one good move, which is queen g5, and then after rook d6, you know, I should have played b7, and after b7 I would have been in a better position. I didn't see it, and you know, after a few more unprecise games, I played h5, that's an error. Then after rook e4, I blundered an hg6, and after hg6 I basically had to resign the game because I'm obviously hopelessly lost. This was basically played at a hyper bullet speed, and I think, as my emote shows, I'm too old and too slow. Hey, Bullet Mercenary, thank you for joining us. It's very good to see you. So let me, you know, to go back to this game. From a strategic standpoint, I achieved my. Hey, Danish22, it's very good to see you. Thank you, my friend. Thank you for joining us. I'm showing 3 of my losses in the game yesterday against in my adoption match against Dina Belenkaya. So, you know, I promised to play Grob. I played Grob. I derived a pretty decent position, or something that was a pretty decent position, not objectively, but with the context of the match. I really wanted to play a Café de la Régence 1837 type of a game with, you know, which was not a very strong, which obviously positional considerations did not come into play. I wanted to play for a mating attack. I wanted to play with a very disruptive game, and a game in which attack was the primary mode of operation, and I achieved that. This was probably a pretty wild position, you know, and while I'm not going to say that I handled this attack very well, you know, I definitely brought myself into a position in which I had fairly significant chances. You know, king d7 was an error. I think, you know, you know, playing Queen B8 was definitely a vastly superior move. But you know, and here, you know, King E8, and King E8 is bad here because although King goes to hide between the pawns, the problem in this particular position is that rooks are not connected, and the dominant move in this position was supposed to be Queen C7, in which the fact that Rook on D8 is not defended was primary. I cannot fault Dina or indeed myself or anybody for that. Basically, the plan was to go to E8, F8, and then G7. Hey, Worship! It's very good to see you. And thank you. Hi, Davina. Twitch, let's go. Let's give a quick shout out, you know, to my dear friend Worship, and to Davina, who is a WFM and a great streamer. Please give both of them a follow. All right. Yep. Thank you. So, and yeah, Chess Noob, and here is another thing. I think Chess Noob is exactly right. What he said, that it kind of played a little bit psychologically, in a sense that I don't want to, you know, I have a huge respect for Dina. I think she's a great player, and I think she's a great friend, or she's a great streamer. But I think I managed to get a little bit under her skin. I think there was noticeable some tentativeness in her play after this Grub game. So, well, you know, I have to give credit to Alessia. Grub can be pretty unnerving to play against, because everybody's expecting you to do well and, you know, win, because after all, you know, going back to this, you know, after very first white move, black is minus 0.81. You know, and after D5, actually I prefer E5, thank you computer, you know, all of a sudden, basically, it's very close to a decisive advantage for black. Anyway, so I wasn't unhappy about this game. I thought this was bluntly a trolling game, a game I promised Alessia would play, but it also validates my strategy in the match, and that strategy was let me attack and hope for the best. Oh, thank you, Latinum Blonde. That's very kind of you. Thank you for the subscription. And let me see. So, all right, we're gonna do the final countdown, official video, then we're gonna return for Dire Straits. Okay, so that was game one. I'm gonna now switch to, you know, to basically game two, in which, very frankly, Dina crushed me. Oh, I'm not gonna do that. Dina crushed me, and that's one of my, you know, worst games of the match, or, you know, pretty bad in the sense that I was always a little bit uncomfortable, and I'll show you why. So Dina decided, and we're gonna go start the analysis video. Dina decided to play E4, E5, and then she played this interesting variation of Vienna with G3 and Bishop G2. And we actually played this more than once, and it took me a game and a half to understand the position, to be very, very frank with you. Oh, thank you, Latinum Blonde. I joined B4 against Dina Scandi too. Incidentally, I don't know if Mark is still in chat, but that's the game. That's the B4 move is that my dear friend Mark Esserman showed me way back when, some time ago, and I like that B4 against Scandinavian. Thank you. All right, so hold on. This is the final countdown, which is now over. We're gonna go back to Brothers in Arms. Oops. Yeah. Anyway, so I was like, all right, I haven't seen this before. So obviously I don't have any prep, so I decided to, play this a little bit aggressively. And, bishop e6 and knight e2, c5. And I chose here to play this toilet break chess. Do I play gambits against e4? Yes, I do occasionally, very occasionally, especially where I'm tilted. I play Latvian gambit, which is e4, e5, knight f3, f5, and with some success. I actually played it against Dina in our very first adoption match, as a matter of fact. Anyway, so after, this was actually my second attempt of handling this position, and here is what's interesting here. The primary plan for white in this position is to basically castle. Oh, Theo, thank you for joining us. And Theo, my dear friend, thank you. Very good to see you. I'm showing 3 games from my match against Dina yesterday. Plan for white is to basically push f4 and basically push the pawns on the king side. And in the first game, I made an error of playing bishop c5 and then bishop g4, which played into white's hands, because white in these positions wants to play h3 and then move the king on h2 and then push f4. And I basically donated a few tempi to white's cause by playing it that way. So, and this is my second attempt at handling this opening. I decided to treat it like a small version of Marazzi bind. Obviously, Marazzi bind is in Sicilian and so on, but I wanted to play this e5, c5 structure and, try to take advantage, and at some point, maybe play f6, play knight c6, and then castle short and basically hold this position and maybe generate some play along the side of d file. That was, that was the plan. Yeah, but I don't really know. This was basically Vienna with g3 and bishop g2. I'm very frankly, I'm still studying Vienna after the match because Dina found a huge hole in my opening studies, so I don't really know the terminology. I was always under the impression that Larsen is associated with move b3. Okay, so what's happening with our dear friends? Okay, the music is going to start in a few seconds. Sorry about that. Oh yeah? So Larsen used to play that. Thank you, Theo. I learned something. Thank you for sharing that with us. I didn't know. Anyway, so after castling, after c5, castle, knight c6, again, I'm still constructing my Marazzi type position. Dina played d3, which is among the best moves, and basically the best move is f4, which Dina ended up playing a move later. And I have to admit that I was, I don't want to say surprised by this move, but I didn't expect that she was gonna play this in this particular position when, the king's, a7 to g1 diagonal is wide open, e file is already open, and the position is not closed. So I have to admit that I was here a little bit surprised, and I really didn't know what to play, and it basically showed because I made what is supposed to a blunder. Computer best move is to play queen on d7, which basically prevents f5 ideas. But, you know, I didn't really have the understanding of this position. And very honestly, I'm still trying to wrap my head around how to play this type of a position. So what they, you know, ended up, instead of playing queen d7 or even playing f6, which I actually considered a candidate move and then rejected it, I took on f4, and you will see that I actually spent almost a minute and a half thinking about what to do here. And, you know, then Dina did, you know, took on f4, which is not the best move according to the computer. Takes, bishop takes, and queen b6, obviously, you know, attacking the pawn on b2, and so on and so forth. And there is obviously this, you know, threatened check, and, you know, it's black being tricky, for the lack of a better word. So after knight a4, which is the excellent move, queen a5 is probably the best, c3, and then rook c8. Rook d8 was actually a better move. Bishop e3, and then castles. This is one of those positions that oh, thanks worship. Yeah, those feel like a completely natural moves, and it's, you know, quite understandable here. So after castle, a3, rook d8, and I have to admit that here I have kind of starting to lose the compass a little bit. You know, queen b5 is still the best move, but then Dina found one resource that was an unexpected move for me. I really didn't expect d4, and basically allowing all these, you know, light square, surrendering the control of these light square fields to black. And I didn't find the best continuation. Best continuation was basically to try not to allow knight to jump on c5, which was, you know, what would be to play b6. So instead I played bishop d5. I wanted to neutralize this bishop on g2, which transpires was actually not the best move. I missed Dina's reply, which was actually, although computer calls it inaccuracy, it's actually strategically a very good decision, because this bishop, although it looks like it's very strong, is actually pretty precarious on d5, and, you know, and can be fairly easily chased away. And after obvious rook c7, and you will see how you know, the computer evaluation starts creeping up in white's favor. And this is fairly typical for most of my games against Dina. Dina is a 2600 grandmaster level player when it comes to positionally accumulated small advantages and then converting them into a win. It literally feels, and this is a compliment incidentally, you know, and I will gladly repeat it to Dina. It feels like being strangled by a python step by step, or being cooked like the proverbial frog in a pot in which the temperature goes up by a couple of degrees every couple of minutes. It's a constant pressure and accumulation of small advantages that basically ultimately ends up leading to you losing the game. And one of the reasons why I played that such a wild first game is because I basically said to myself that I'm not going to allow that to happen again. Anyway. So after rook c7, knight c5, which computer considers a mistake, but it's one of those mistakes that are not immediately obvious how to take advantage of. I didn't want to play b6 because I made a decision, which it proved to be strategically wrong, to basically just take bishop to c5 and surrender a bishop pair. And you know what? Stockfish can say that bishop c5 is the best move as much as it wants. If I had this position again, I would basically play b6 and keep the bishop pair. Because what happened was that I ended up in a position that is completely placed to, hey, Toilet Break Chess, thank you for the follow, that's very greatly appreciated. In which, white has everything to play with. It has an accumulation of small imperceptible advantages, and I'll enumerate those advantages for you. First is bishop pair. Okay. Second, very honest, to just look at the black pieces. You have this rook, this queen. That's, I don't want to say a little bit precarious, but it is a little bit precarious. And these two files are craving to be controlled by, by white, and so on and so forth. I was extremely uncomfortable in this position. I didn't consider this lost by any means, but I wasn't happy. Anyway, so of course, a natural byproduct of that is a bad move, which, I shouldn't have played. I should have played rook e7, attack the bishop, and, double the bishop to e5, surrender, accept the necessity of f6, and so on and so forth. But if you look closer, you will just see that it's, as Stockfish thinks longer, it already doesn't like this position. Anyway, so queen d2, natural move, exchange, rook e7, grabbing the control, rook fe1, all natural moves. And, and you will see that I actually here made an error. I should have exchanged the pair of rooks here, but I didn't. So after king f2, I didn't really see anything better than to exchange the rooks. And here is where Dina's mastery of positional play shows. 99% of the players would basically here play rook e1, and if you look closer, surrender more than half of their advantage to, because although white has a bishop pair, it really needs a rook to exert pressure on these two pawns. Because these two pawns are very difficult to defend together. And if, in other words, they're on the open file. If white plays a6, then you have bishop pawn on b7 is perpetually in trouble. And anyway, so Dina played bishop e1, and after a6, which, I am here find this position in which, yes, I have a rook that controls the only open file, but that rook doesn't have any points of entry. All these fields, well, this one isn't, but it's not terribly useful. All these fields are already taken, and I really, I have a beautiful looking rook, but it's not useful. And as usually happens, I'm also very low on time. I make a blunder. After knight b3, I'm losing a knight, and it's over. But, let's, even if we forget this, knight e5, which is a pretty big blunder, it's pretty obvious that, black here has major challenges in the position that, it ultimately wouldn't be able to solve. And this is a type of play, very frankly, that, is very typical for Dina style. This is very typical for our previous adoption match. In other words, it's a game that's very positional, in which imperceptible advantages are being taken huge advantage of, which eventually translate into this decisive win. Hey Latinkista, it's very good to see you. Thank you for joining us. So, this game, I don't want to. It's actually not typical for all the 7 games I lost in this match, because quite a lot of games that I lost were very tactical games in which I blundered, made stupid move towards the end. But it's fairly typical for the reason why I always enjoy playing against Dina, and why we played the second match, and what I'm taking away from this match. It's a mastery of very strong positional play, of accumulating imperceptible advantages until they are sufficient for victory. And this game is why this is why I'm showing you this. This is basically typical of maybe 4 of those 7 losses that I ended up 7 games that they're losing in this match. Anyway, so there's really little to add. I'm not necessarily unhappy with the way I handled this opening. I should have probably been more prepared for f4. This was a needless error, but it's not like I didn't have my chances here. In other words, avoid a couple of imprecisions here, and I'm in very good too. And yep, exactly, Toilet Break Chess. That's exactly right. Every move I play, there is no obvious error, or there is no obvious point in the game, but it's an accumulation of imperceptible advantages. Anyway, so bottom line, guys, if you ever play a game against Dina, just don't let her do this, because if you let her do this, I can guarantee you will lose it, and she's gonna beat players that are very strong if it all ever comes to playing small positional advantages accumulation. All right, so that's this game. I have one more game that I want to show you, and it's actually a game in which I'm gonna spare you, in which you will see the hey Worship, thanks, but Worship, you have to now invite your wife to the stream so we can ask her as well. Anyway, just kidding, my friend. So you asked me about my B4 Scandinavian, and I am going to show a game that I should have won but I ended up losing, in which B4 Scandinavian was played. So, so takes a D5, takes an A5, knight C3, queen A5, all standard book move. And here is my favorite idea of International Master Mark Esserman, who was in the chat earlier before. He showed me this. It's B4. What is the logic of B4? Well, B4 have multiple logics. First, there is a possibility of playing rook B1, rook B3, and then swinging the rook over. Which, oh, thank you, Tinker Teacher. Yes, I'm hydrating. Which is in itself an interesting idea. And second is the idea that ended up being played in this game, which is basically take rook B4 and then play A4, which computer doesn't like. But the idea between A4 is, oh, thank you, teacher, very greatly appreciated. Have I ever played the Queen D6 variation of Scandinavian? I really do not play Queen D6. I don't play Scandinavian as black, so I don't know. Hey, Megamaniac, it's very good to see you, my friend. Thank you for joining us. I'm showing I'm showing you 3 games that I lost in my match against Dina Belenkaya yesterday. Yeah, exactly. It's tricky, and just one of the 3 wins was in which Dina basically played queen d6, I played bishop a3, and she played knight f6, and bought this gambit, and it was over in 7 moves, believe it or not. So anyway, so what's the idea behind this white's play? First, hey Goran Zaric, hey Goran, hey, welcome, all is well, thank you, it's very good to see you here. So I'm showing games against Dina Belenkaya from the match there. My experience, honestly, I can't tell, but I had lots of success with playing b4. And Mega, to answer your question, you know what, I actually never counted them. I think I had played close to 10. And I think I was only adopted by Aman. I was lucky against Julian Landau, and I managed to win game 10 against Karina, but my biggest challenge is actually coming this Sunday, which I'm playing on the Muzichuk, so that's my strongest opponent to date, with all due respect to Aman. Don't quote me, please. Aman is a friend of mine. But anyway, so what is the logic between White's play here, to go back to this? It is... we don't bring up Julian? Okay, we won't bring up Julian. Okay. Actually, I'm commentating an adoption match with Julian of Alessia Santeramo versus Noel Studer. So that's, we'll see. I'll need any luck I can get. I'm actually trying to improve my luck. There will be a couple of streams later this week about it. So to go back here, what did White get for the pawn? It gets several tempi. And, if finally, Queen goes back to d8, which is the best move, and, Knight f3 is the natural move. What White gets is, first, development. These pieces are well developed. There's still ideas to swinging the rook over for any kind of attack. And battery, and here this bishop is very annoying because it will be exchanged at some point for this bishop on f8, which will prevent black from castling short, which is a significant, because if black castles long, then white already has an open b file. So I'm gonna say that, for that b4, white has sufficient compensation. And I've played it many times, and there are plenty of traps associated with it. So I venture to say that that's actually my main weapon against Scandinavian, to the extent that I'm looking forward for players with black pieces to play queen a5, because b4 is usually a surprise. I played this in our first match against Dina, and Dina actually didn't take on b4. She just withdrew the queen to b6, I think. So, thanks. I didn't know about Hikaru and Magnus worship. That's good to know. Anyway, and so to continue. Knight f3, knight f6, bishop c4, all normal moves. Computer still likes, White's position, but, and here is one of the reasons: bishop on f8, king f8. So this king is gonna not be able to castle, which I think brings significant compensation to White in this position. Yes, Platinum Blonde. Once BC4 happens, it's kind of a mashup of Evans, Scandinavian, and yes, though knight on c3 here is not very well placed, but that's a minor issue. Hey, Sapper, it's my friend. It's very good to see you. This must be very late for you. Thank you for joining us. Anyway, so rook e1, g6, it's basically artificial castling, king e7, and you see this is one of the key positions in the game. Once the king ends up on g7, it's interesting question is how is white going to proceed here? And all the advantages that white had, or compensation that white had, which might be more precise, are still there. And the question here is, what is next? Because if white waits and allows black to develop this bishop and move connect the rooks and so on, black is going to win this game on the strength of the extra pawn. So there is an advantage, or there is compensation, but that compensation is basically it's a perishable, like most initiatives are. I'm an a4. Well, I'll ask you to break chess. I play an e4. I do occasionally play d4, but I do play e4, e5, d5, c5, g6, e4b. Yeah, okay. Opening preparation is something, and I think it's a fair question, Worship. And I can actually discuss this with Total Break Chess in Discord as well. I actually enjoy opening preparation. So for me, I'm very familiar. I play a lot of e4, Iru Lopez. I play a lot of Italian game. I'm comfortable in several variations of Sicilian, and I actually enjoy playing against Caro-Kann and so on. If you are uncomfortable playing e4, by no means don't. I think g3, g6 are very safe moves. If you play some sort of a modern defense or king's in attack, that's probably the safer option. I would definitely play it. I have discovered that playing various openings improves your ability to evaluate various positions. But that's my path. I enjoy opening preparation. Lots of people think that practicing tactics and playing simple openings is the ways to go. So anyway, I hope this answer is helpful. Total Break Chess. Anyway. So here is a question. What do we do with this development advantage? It's definitely there, but okay, this rook is developed, but it is hitting. Hey, Mass Refuge, thank you for gifting us up to Chess Lions. That's very greatly appreciated. Thank you. It's biting the granite on e6. The queen and this knight I tied up to defending the pawn on d4. Knight b5 looks like a nice move, but after a6 we need to tie our tail back there and go back. The only, and I'm actually happy to see that it's the second best move. I decided to make the good old pawn breakthrough, which is d5. And, a5 is the best move. I understand the logic of that move, but that's not exactly the move that, a human would play. That, move usually makes no sense. But the idea behind that move is to push to a6 and then some sort of an exchange and blah, 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 blah. I prefer d5 because it's, this king is not entirely unsafe, but these three pieces are a little bit clumsy. So I was kind of hoping to take advantage of it. Anyway, so takes, which is actually pretty bad, and takes, which is computer doesn't like, but I was under the impression, and I'm standing by it, that the exchange of queens would actually benefit white in this position. Anyway, bishop f5. Knight e5 is a mistake because, after this, black has a pawn and there isn't much of a development advantage anymore. What I liked about it is that although, black is definitely better, the position is a little bit tricky. Black needs to decide what to do with this bishop. B file will finally come into play, and very frankly, in a position of this kind with both rooks on the board and queen, this king still being a little bit awkward here on g7 with rook on h8, I felt that I had a chance of generating some tactics, and that actually proved to be true. So bishop e6, f4. Rook he8, rook b1, taking advantage finally of the b file, b6, a5. All of these are perfectly natural and, pretty good moves. After f6, rook e4, rook f7, takes, and then king f2. We have reached the position in which, black has an advantage, and it's a fair because in these positions bishop is supposed to be stronger than the knight, but knight is very well placed on e3, and this pawn on a5 is already undermining the black's pawn structure. And if one plays, which is what Dina plays b5, then all of a sudden there is a danger of this pawn becoming dangerous, but it's very well advanced and can potentially become a very well advanced passed pawn. So after a6, takes, rook c1, and rook b8, which is actually not a good move. And it's not a good move because the danger here is that after, which is what they played, rook c6, all of a sudden this pawn cannot be defended, apart from rook e8, which is horrible passivization of the rook. And even if black plays rook e8, that pawn can be attacked fairly quickly by playing knight c2 and knight b4. Anyway, so Dina played a perfectly rational move, which is b4, pushing baby. I play rook b6, which is the best move in this position because that pawn on b6 would be very strong, in fact stronger than the white's protected post pawns because it's so well advanced. And then rook c8, rook a6, and this is a position in which very frankly I felt that I should be able to draw. And I'm a little annoyed at myself here, bluntly. Because if you look here, this is a position with the same number of pawns, in which, granted, bishop is slightly stronger than the knight, especially since knight really cannot... Hey, Tiogantes, thank you for the cheer, very greatly appreciated. Especially since it kind of, I don't want to say dominates the knight, but obstructs knight for coming across to the queen side. But on the other hand, and this is something that I need to learn, I have 2 minutes. And Dina has 4 seconds. So, the fact that, I managed to contrive to lose this position, I'm not very happy. And you will see, before I lost this position, this game went into much wilder zone. So b3 is the best move. Rook b6 is a perfectly natural. You have to stop that pawn. And here is, it's very crucial that this c2 field is protected by the knight. Anyway, so rook c1, best move. A6, which is a good move. Rook a1, best move. g3, I'm basically trying to start pushing the pawns. And rook a2, queen f3, and then h5. You know, rook h2 was actually a better move according to the engine, but Dina didn't want to allow pawn to go to a7, and I don't really blame her. I wouldn't want that either. Annoying part is that this knight really doesn't have a convenient way to participating into stopping this b pawn, so rook is basically tied to the b file. Going back, h3, king g8, g4. Let me put it this way: I'm kind of hoping to exchange as many pawns on the king sides as I possibly can. And I had an opportunity to grab the pawn on f6. I just didn't want to allow that pawn to go to b2. I was, you know, though realistically that pawn could go to b2 anytime. But I was worried that if I take this pawn, I'm giving black a tempo, and didn't want to do it. So h4, which is actually a pretty bad move, because this pawn is became a weakness, and on top of it, now rook f6 is even stronger than before. So I played rook b8, which is not a good move. King g7, return to f6, g5, takes, knight f5, which is still the best move, rook b8, and rook b6, which is a fine move. Rook b7 would have been even better. And, you know, because even, you know, here is an interesting, just so we're on the same page. A rook b7 here is possible, because if I were to play rook b7 and then bishop d5, well, first it's pinned, but even then, you know, if black were to take the rook on b7, a b7, and basically black has no way of stopping the b pawn from promoting. Anyway, so I didn't play that. I played the rook. I played knight f5, and then after here, I played rook b6, and I returned to the previous position. And Dina should have played bishop d5, but she allowed me to play queen e4. I'm here deluding myself into some attempt into mating attack by playing king e5 and king f6. And surprisingly enough, I ended up in a one position, because bishop c4 is not a good move in this position, because after rook b7, king g8, and a7, white is winning. And that's one of the, you know, surprising miracles of this rather simple endgame, was that Dina and I literally exchanged won and lost position multiple times in the space of 5 moves. And if you look at the report, you will see that, you know, this looks like a, you know, Los Angeles earthquake. Now, having a one position here and being able to actually win it is a different question. So Dina played rook a5, which allowed me to go to f6, and then Dina made a huge blunder, which is knight d5. I have 11 seconds, so, you know, I had a very simple tactic, which is to take on knight e7. And if I played knight ace, you know, knight d7, this game wouldn't have been shown tonight, but it would be one, you know, the score of the match would have been 6-4, and you know, we would be. I'm very happy with the match as it is. Don't get me wrong, but you know, this could have easily been an easy win for me here if I caught knight e7, but I didn't, and. You know, I played rook b8, which is actually throws away most of the advantage, and then after making a few more mistakes, I ended up making a huge blunder, which is you know, instead of playing knight d4, which would solidify a draw, I took on h4, and then Dina played bishop b7. Actually, rook b7 would have been a better move, but then I needed, you know, I panicked, and instead of playing rook e8, I managed b2, and then I played g6, and after this was all said and done, I completely overlooked it. I was under the impression that I could actually capture the pawn on b2, in which case this would have been a draw, but I can't, and therefore I resigned in this position. Okay, let me get this very straight. I played the WGM to a 3-7 loss, and I had an opportunity to make it even better. I'm very happy with that match against Dina. I'm actually very, I don't want to say ecstatic, but I'm very happy. And for the record, this is not the only game that I could have won. I managed to, miss a very, I was supposed to end up with a piece up in another similar position that, very frankly, I'm too salty to show you guys. But when all is said and done, it's very indicative of one thing that I need to work on. I've won 3 games against Dina out of 10. One game, Dina blundered the queen and immediately resigned. In other 2, I delivered a checkmate. I am finding it as a player, and that's something I need to work on, that I need to learn how to convert endgames like this. Because this endgame, was a won endgame for me. Then it still won endgame as a me. Then it was a draw. Okay, all I need to do is to play knight d4, and this is an easily drawn endgame. And I need to be able to know how to do that. And very frankly, one of the reasons why I'm worried about my match against Anna Muzichuk is that I'm going to have an opportunity to draw a win game maybe once. And I'll have 1 chance out of 10 to do it, and I need to learn how to better convert this. And that's something that's obviously I'm not going to resolve by Sunday, but that's a mission for this. I played really well. I'm very happy with the match, but I need to improve my conversion rate here. And yes, lose patience, I get mad at myself, and so on and so forth. And even here, after this, why am I in a panic mode here? I just need to play rook e8 and rook on e1, and then, why am I playing g5? Why am I, for lack of a better word, choking in positions like this? Anyway, so apart from that, I really have no qualms. I don't think, I think, the Scandinavian d4 served me well. I like a4, bishop a3. I think I need to play more games and get even more familiar with the logic of the position. I think it suits my play style. But I lost the thread somewhere in here, and then transitioning this to an endgame was a little bit of a cop-out. And then I played the endgame fairly well until the very last 10 moves. Yeah, exactly, Sapper. They are, in a winning position, go out simple style. Yes, that's what Maria said during the match, and Maria is always right. And yeah, most mistakes come after a blunder. Commander MX, very, very nicely put. Most mistakes come after a blunder. And, if we go back to this position, in which king g5 basically blundered the win, or rook b8 blundered the win. Then king g5, king h4 threw away the draw that was available in the position, because all I need to do in this position is to exchange this knight for this pawn. And Dina might want to play rook and bishop against rook, but I still have 2 pawns. So anyway, all right, guys, thank you for being with me tonight. Thank you for sharing this with me. I'm going to announce my schedule for this week's streaming a little bit sometime tonight or later tomorrow. Tomorrow at some point. I'm waiting for a couple of confirmations. I know that Anna won't be able to stream with me this week because she is doing other stuff, but there will be other streams, and I'll keep you guys posted. And finally, one last announcement: me playing Fall Guys, and here is the thing, is definitely coming sometime very soon. Wish me luck against Anna Muzichuk. I'll keep you. I'm gonna try to die with my boots on and come down swinging, and whatever cliche is appropriate. I'm looking forward to seeing you again, and let's see who should we raid. All right, let's see who is streaming. All right, who is streaming? You know what? I'm gonna actually send you. Danya is streaming, so I'm gonna send you guys to Danya. Danya is playing chess today. And there you go. Sending you to Danya, and I'm gonna join you very soon. See you soon. Thank you. It's gonna be a killer match against. I am gonna see. Yeah, Milkovic is gonna kill me too about Grob, but that's a separate story. I made a promise. All right, sending you guys to Danya. Say hello to me. I'm looking forward to seeing you. Oh, Bigfoot. All right. See you, Sepper. See you, Worship. See you, Chessline Alliance. It's very good to see you. Mice Refuge. Thank you. Thank you so much for being here. And there we go. Enjoy with Danya. Bye.